You know the feeling. You sat at a desk all day, you barely moved, you lifted nothing heavier than a coffee cup, and yet by the evening you feel wrecked, hollowed out, like you ran a race you never signed up for. Your body did almost nothing, but your battery reads empty. This video is about that strange kind of tired, and about an ancient alarm inside you that switches on easily and almost never hears the word safe. So let's start with the obvious guess and watch it fall apart. Maybe you feel drained because thinking burns a huge amount of energy. It sounds right, but in 2006, a scientist named Marcus Raichle described something that breaks that idea. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, yet at rest, doing nothing special, it already uses around 20% of your body's energy. It is a furnace that never really cools down. Because here is the twist. When you focus hard on a difficult task, the extra energy your brain burns in that spot is small, roughly a few percent more, on top of a fire that was already roaring. So the empty feeling after a desk day is probably not your brain melting calories like an engine. The math does not add up. Something else is draining you. But mental work does leave a mark. In 2022, a researcher named Antonius Wheeler ran a sharp little study. He had 40 people do brain-heavy control tasks for a full workday. Some got hard tasks, some got easy ones. Then he measured the chemistry inside their brains, and in the hard task group, he found a buildup of a substance called glutamate in the front of the brain, the part you use for focus and self-control. Which means the wrung-out feeling is not just drama or weakness. Heavy mental effort can leave a real, measurable trace behind. The people who worked harder even started making lazier choices, reaching for the easy option, the short wait, the low effort. Their control system was running low. But notice what this is. It is chemistry inside the brain. It is not stress hormones flooding your blood. That is a different story, and it is the one that traps us. So let's follow the alarm. When your body senses a threat, it fires in two waves. The first wave is fast. A deep part of the brain hits the panic button, and within seconds, adrenaline pours out. Your heart speeds up, your senses sharpen. The second wave is slower. A chain runs from the brain down to two small glands sitting on top of your kidneys, and they release cortisol, which frees up sugar for fuel and keeps you alert. This system is old, and it is brilliant. For a real emergency, it can save your life. But your body does not need a tiger to start it. In 1993, a researcher named Clemens Kirschbaum built a simple, almost cruel little test. He put people in front of a panel of judges and made them give a speech, then do math out loud, all while being watched and rated. No danger, no claws. Just other humans judging you. And in most healthy adults, cortisol rose 2 to 3 times higher. In roughly 70 to 80% of people, this social pressure alone tripped the alarm. So sit with that. There was no predator in the room. There was only judgment, lost control, and the fear of looking stupid. And that was enough. Your threat system does not only listen for teeth and claws. It listens for status, for rejection, for the sense that you are being measured and might fall short. But here is where we have to be careful, because this is where the story usually goes wrong. Cortisol is not a poison. It is not venom sitting in your veins waiting to rot you. It is a useful messenger that helps manage your energy, your immune system, your blood pressure, even your sleep and waking rhythm. A short burst of it is healthy. It helps you rise to a hard moment. The problem was never cortisol itself. The problem is how often the alarm gets pulled and how rarely it hears that the danger has passed. Because think about your modern day. An email lands and its subject line hints at a problem. A message glows on your phone. A meeting invite appears with no note attached. None of these is a tiger, but your brain can still tag them as a kind of threat, a conflict, a deadline, a chance to be judged or blamed. Small pulls of the same ancient alarm, over and over, all day long. And we can actually watch this happen. In 2012, a researcher named Gloria Mark cut off email for a group of office workers and measured how they behaved. With email flowing normally, people flipped between windows about 37 times an hour, jumping from task to task. When the email stopped, that dropped to about 18 times an hour. Their heart rate patterns even hinted at lower stress without the constant inbox, though the group was small, so we hold that part loosely. But you already knew the inbox was pulling at you. The real question is what happens when you stop opening it so much. In 2015, a researcher named Kostadin Kushlev tested exactly that. He asked people to check their email only 3 times a day for a week. They could not quite manage it. They still checked around 4.7 times a day on average, but in their normal week, they checked over 12 times a day, and in the low-checking week, their daily stress measured lower. Fewer pulls on the alarm meant a calmer nervous system. Simple as that. So the trap starts to come into focus. The alarm is not the enemy. A single burst of stress is fine, even useful. The danger lives in repetition without recovery. In 1998, a researcher named Bruce McEwen gave this a name and a shape. He described the slow price a body pays when its stress systems stay switched on too much. He pointed to a few patterns: the alarm firing too often, the alarm never quieting down after the danger is gone, and the body failing to reset. It is not one big shock that wears you down. It is 1,000 small alarms that never get the all clear. Which means the harm is not really about any single stressful moment. The same response that protects you in a short crisis can grind you down when it becomes the background hum of your whole life. And at the far end, this can touch the body in hard, measurable ways. In 2021, a large study led by Frank Pega, working with the World Health Organization, looked at people working very long hours, 55 or more per week. In 2016, about 488 million people worldwide were exposed to those hours, and that exposure was linked to around 745,000 deaths from heart disease and stroke in a single year. This is not about one stressful email. It is about long, grinding overwork stacked up across years, but it shows the stakes are real. So it is no surprise the world gave this state a name. In 2019, the World Health Organization clarified how it defines burnout, and their definition is careful. Burnout is not called a medical disease. It is described as something that comes from long-term work stress that was never well managed, with 3 signs: deep exhaustion, growing distance or coldness toward your job, and a sense that you are getting worse at it. Notice what it is not. It is not simply too much cortisol. It is a whole pattern tied to work that builds up over time. But if the trap is an alarm that never hears safe, then part of the answer is learning to send that signal on purpose. In 2018, a researcher named Manuel Mucha reviewed studies on exercise and stress, and the picture was hopeful but honest. In about 7 of 12 studies, fitter or more active people showed a smaller cortisol jump under stress. Movement did not burn stress away like waste, but it seemed to help the body settle, to nudge the alarm back toward calm. The evidence is promising, not a magic cure, and it does not replace real help when exhaustion runs deep. So here is where this quietly lands. You are not weak, because a day of sitting can leave you empty. You are carrying a very old alarm, built for short, sharp danger, then set loose in a world of endless small threats that never quite end and never quite pass. The email loads and the alarm pulls. The message glows and it pulls again, but the tiger never comes and the tiger never leaves, so the "you're safe now" signal rarely arrives. Because that is the real trap. Not that stress is evil, not that your body is broken. Your alarm works perfectly. It just lives in a place that keeps whispering danger and forgets to ever whisper done. And that is why the smallest, oldest things still matter most. A real end to the day, a phone set down, a walk, a moment where your body finally gets the one message it has been waiting for all along. It is over. You can stand down now. You are safe.